Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another vlog from me about the MS Stats program at CSU East Bay. I know it's been a while since I've been pretty busy with school and work and all, but I'm back. And today I want to talk a little bit more about the MS Stats program and get into more of the nitty gritty about what's like being in the program and all of that. And what better way to do that with a very special guest today, who's a dear classmate that I've met in the program, as well as, I would consider a dear friend. And that friend and classmate is Lydia Gibson. And so to start off, I want to say, Lydia, welcome to the vlog, and thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Right. Okay, I guess I bet a lot of you folks out there probably have a lot of questions to ask me, and I've been trying to do my best to answer them. And I think a good way to start off this conversation is, I guess, start off by asking you, Lydia. I was wondering if you could go over how did you end up deciding on getting a master's in statistics at California State University East Bay? Feel free to go in
Okay.
much detail as you like.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So, as Ken mentioned, Lydia Gibson, I'm a classmate of his. We started the program, I guess, fall 2021. And before that, like I was like working, I worked in like state and local government, doing different jobs. Like I was an office technician for the state at one point, and then I was also like a buyer for the county for a little bit. But yeah, I actually got my undergraduate degree in economics, but I would say for the most part, I haven't really used it in any of the jobs I've done. Like I worked retail for quite a bit. Um, and it also had to do with like kind of like imposter syndrome coming out of undergrad, not feeling like I have any real skills or anything. But like following my previous jobs with the state and county, feeling a bit better about myself, like, all right, I could work, I can do this. And just thinking like, all right, so I want to give myself some better options, like as far as careers and living in the Silicon Valley, something that's well paying. So yeah, I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm good with numbers. I like numbers. Let me do statistics. It was like I'd taken like statistics courses for my undergraduate degree. So probably like nothing, not like legit like math courses, but like I took econometrics, economic statistics, business statistics, and like intro to statistics and stuff like that. But so I've had experience with the, and even from like high school. That's a longer story. But yeah, like I've always kind of liked math and statistics. So I was like, all right, let me go this route. But yeah, I couldn't go as far as going to like, I'm going to do computer science. It's not in the realm of my skill set. But yeah, I feel like this is something that I could have done. So yeah, so like when I was looking for programs, I just wanted to stay somewhere local. Like I live in San Jose, so like my first kind of, not, I won't say first choice, but like the first thing that came to mind was like going to SJSU because I'd actually previously went there for like the MS accounting program. And yeah, I didn't make it through that, as you could tell. But yeah, it was a 1 year accelerated program and very, very intense. And I couldn't quite hack it in that. But yeah, so even with like San Jose State's MS statistics program, they had a bit more requirements than I had, like ready to go, like off the back to apply. So like they needed Calc 3 and also linear algebra. And with my background in economics, those weren't classes that I was required to take. So it would have required me to um take those classes before even being able to like actually start the program at SJSU. So Cal State East Bay. It's only like 35 minutes drive from me. So I had the prereqs of like Calc 1 and Calc 2. So yeah, I was like, let me do this program for sure. Yeah. I guess I'd say that's about it. Any other things you could think of?
Um, I was just going to say that that's a very unique background that you have because I think a lot of times when students come to this program or they look at statistics, they're like, oh no, how am I going to succeed because I don't have that STEM background? So it's just really interesting that you have a I mean, I guess econ is very technical, but it's not in the same way as a STEM degree for sure. So it's really interesting for sure. And I guess one thing I just wondered, like just as a more of a detailed question, is like, were you ever like someone who was interested in math as a kid growing up? Was math something that came to you then?
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually, I loved math. Like, it's funny. I love reading, but I hate writing. So, like, yeah, like, but math, I was always good at math. But yeah, even in like high school. So, like, I took calculus in 11th grade and then took AP Calc in 12th grade, doing like the AP Calc exam. I don't know if I got a five or a four. It goes up to five or it goes up to four. Either way, I got the credit
Yeah,
one.
it goes up to
I was
five.
able
Yeah.
goes up to five. Yeah, so I probably got like a four. I was able to get the credit for it like on my transcript for undergrad. And yeah, and actually I had like started taking statistics, AP statistics, but it was like what they considered zero period and it started at like 6 in the morning. And I was like, no, this is not happening. But yeah, because like I participated in science research from like ninth to 11th grade, so to help with the research, like the teacher had suggested like the students in the class take AP statistics. So yeah, I mean I'd been introduced to it like before college, but yeah, I did not take that class. And then yeah, even like taking physics, like I took physics in 11th grade. Also should have taken AP physics in 12th, but yeah, I got senioritis really bad. But yeah, I've always liked math and numbers, and that was kind of also why I was thinking to go the accounting route as well, because it is it is numbers, but it's not quite the same. Like, I don't know, I'm someone who likes puzzles, so yeah, accounting's not quite it's not quite like as much of a puzzle as like something like statistics is. So yeah, that's yeah.
Right. And I guess when you left high school, it seemed like you were leaning towards accounting, right? And then how did you end up like going into econ?
Oh, so me in high school is a long story. But yeah, no, I was leaning more towards fashion. But yeah, having like parents from a Caribbean background, immigrant parents, it's like, no, not at all. Like you're going to school for business. So
Like go
yeah, so
practical.
basically. So yeah, like when I had first started school, I was going to so basically my undergraduate degree, like my undergraduate background is kind of like I won't say all over the place, but all over the place. So like the first year, I started off at like a local state school. Like, okay, so also I'm from New York, like Long Island specifically. So yeah, I started off at a local state school that was maybe like 45 minutes from where I live. So SUNY Stony Brook. And I was doing a business degree there, like a BA in business. But me and the free spirit I am was like, I want to go to school in London. So I did for my sophomore year, or actually like 3 semesters. So like all of sophomore year and the first semester of junior year, I was actually going to school in London at Richmond American International University in London. And that was super cool. But yeah, so I started doing econ there. I want to say either econ or I was still doing business. But yeah, going to school in the UK is very hard. And as someone who does not like to write, and yeah, they're not as heavy into like multiple choice exams. So that was a learning experience. But anyway, so like I ended up transferring back to school in the States, not back to SUNY Stony Brook, but I went to SUNY Albany, which is in upstate New York. And like when you're doing because it wasn't like if you guys are familiar with those community college associates to transfer degrees. So because it wasn't in like a program like that, SUNY Albany wouldn't just accept the credits I already had towards my degree. You actually need a certain amount of credits at the school you're going to graduate from to get the degree. So rather than redoing all of my business classes, I just kind of switched my major to economics and then kept the minor as business. So still basically I just had to do a whole bunch of econ classes at SUNY Albany, and then all the business classes I had were able to just go into my minor. It was cool. Yeah.
And by doing that, you were able to kind of graduate and get the degree. Like you find a way to make it work using all that stuff you had, rather than kind of switch to another major or having to start over, right?
Yeah, because yeah, like I wasn't, it's weird, like I'm someone who likes learning, but I'm not necessarily someone who likes being in school. So like I kind of just wanted to get in and out with the degree. Um,
I think
and
you
yeah, so
froze.
like yeah, it looks like I am frozen. Should we keep rolling or what do you
Yeah, I
want
think
to
we can
do?
keep going though. Like it's just an
Okay.
observation though. Just
Oh,
want to
I'm back.
just want to give a heads up.
Okay, looks like I'm back. You want
You're
to
good.
start with the question again? And if you want to slice it, I don't know what you want to do.
I mean that's fine.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
you can keep going for sure. Yeah.
Oh,
I think you're good. Yeah, you're
okay.
good.
Okay. So I guess your last question was, what was your last question? Sorry.
I was just more like curious about your econ degree because I think you talked about it. I think the last thing you talked about was about how you decided to do an econ so that way you can take all the classes you already had and then all the business classes you had, just put it as a minor. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
University of
Oh, yeah,
Albany.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, like I like learning. I'm not the biggest fan of school itself, which is interesting because I'm doing a master's. Um, but yeah, more on that later. But yeah, so I just wanted to be able to get in and out with the degree. So I actually ended up kind of graduating like a semester earlier. Like I did, like I finished in like 3.5 years, but that's also because I took classes like during the winter and during the summers. But yeah, and even like but yeah, with regards to like not being like someone who just likes school for the sake of it, like I feel like I went into this program like with a purpose. It wasn't like I went into this program knowing that I wanted to get this degree to get like better my career options and kind of yeah.
That sounds like a really interesting journey for sure. So yeah, because I part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on was because I felt you had a unique background that's very different from a lot of students that people think are usually the ones that go to the program, though. Because I that there are some people out there who think because I'm a I come from a math background, which isn't related to statistics, but it's very close to it. And so as much as I can talk about my experience, I realize I'm speaking from someone who's normally in the STEM area.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like, your experience is very valuable in that because you didn't come from a STEM background. And I think because you look at our program, especially MS Stats or Biostats even at East Bay, it's pretty much open to everybody. Like we have classmates who are biology majors or even someone who's a psychology major, one of our classmates, or even, well, I think there's also one who was also a business major or
Yeah.
I think one person who came in with the English major, political science. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a couple of students like that. So it's a very broad program that's very welcoming to all different backgrounds, just as long as you have calculus,
Yeah.
one and
And
two.
I Yeah, and I really like that because then it makes our group so diverse. Like we're all coming from like such different walks of life. And even yeah, that also made me think like aside from the fact that I came from econ, I'm also like I guess what they call it non-traditional student in that like I actually graduated with my undergrad degree back in like 2011. So I'm fairly not not necessarily up there in years, but like I'm I'd say kind of significantly older than some of our classmates, like if they may have come directly out of undergrad. But yeah, it's great. Like I really love our program and I love that yeah, they made it like lessen the barrier to entry for folks who aren't from like a heavy STEM background. Because it's like Calc 1 and Calc 2, and then just kind of work your butt off, you know. Like, granted, I wish I knew linear algebra and Calc 3 going into this, but It's like honestly, if you're like you just have to have the determination and the drive, and like you can like get through it. Yeah, because I'm like two classes shy of getting my degree. So yeah, hopefully by May, like a few months from now, I will officially be holding my MS statistics degree.
Absolutely. Me too. Like I really can't wait for it as well. I remember you mentioned how, you graduate a while back, but I think, that's something I think I'm not as a way to, you know, slight your background, but I think that like all those years of experience, I think they're still valuable in a way, even though you haven't gone to college since then, because one of the things that I think I've learned from my experience, after I graduated with my bachelor's degree is the importance of, I guess, having some real world experience before you go back to school. Yeah, because there's some people that come from directly from undergrad all the way to grad school. And I think I'm the kind of person who doesn't believe in a wasted experience. I don't think there's such thing as a waste. It's more like, what do you do with it? Yeah. So all those years, like out of school, I think they're valuable. And I think they help you in some way. Maybe I'm reading into it, but I think they've helped you, I guess, get a sense of a work ethic. Because it's one thing to study in a classroom, it's another to actually be out there building relationships, working as a team, and all that. Like the what people call the soft skills that you
Yeah.
don't see very often in school. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely feel like it was to my benefit to have like had those years of experience. I will say, like when it comes to like obstacles with doing the program, it was kind of getting back into the mindset of a student though. Because like when you're at your job, depending on what type of your job you do, you go to work, you do your work, then you leave and that's it. But that's not what it is to be a student. You go to class, you study there, but then you also have to do like twice as much studying as class time to be able to like kind of like get the content to stick in. And that's one of the things about our degree program. It's like, or any sort of math, it's like it's not like someone like lectures you and that's it, you get it. Any sort of math, you have to practice and practice and practice to be able to get that stuff down. So that was kind of something I had to get back into the mindset of doing. It's not just all right, go to class, do the homework, and that's it. Like there's a lot that goes into being a student. Yeah.
Right. And there's also the fact that I think grad school, from what I understand, there's a different mindset you would need to have in order to succeed in it versus an undergrad. Because, like you said, in undergrad or just school in general, it's mostly someone lecturing at you and you just follow along with what they give you. But I feel with grad school, there's a lot more emphasis on more to education than just going to the lecture. There's also networking with professors. There's also maybe taking the time to explore your career options. As yes, I mean, going to class, take the test and whatnot, that's very straightforward. But there's also that networking part, that building your career. There's also extracurricular activities as well, whether it's joining a club. And there's also learning extra skills on the side too. And I think that is much more heavy in grad school because while they encourage it, they kind of, there's an expectation that in order to really elevate your education, it helps to do those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you kind of have to be like you have to be a lot more self-driven in grad school than you do in undergrad. It's a lot more straightforward undergrad. And yeah, I would say that's one of the differences for sure. Like undergrad is still different than high school, but that it's not as much of a jump from like high school to undergrad as it is from like undergrad to grad school. It's like it's totally kind of different. But yeah, definitely like having that mindset of like it goes beyond your classes, like especially for like a master's program versus like a PhD program. Like master's programs, they're more career oriented rather than like research oriented. So yeah, I think it's a really good idea for anyone who's considering going into a master's program, knowing ahead of time, okay, like what are my goals after this? Like I wouldn't suggest anyone going into a master's program because it's like, all right, I'm good at school. I'm gonna keep doing school. Um, One, it's a big like financial, it's yeah, it's a big financial burden to take on. I don't think it's something you should take on lightly, just going to grad school because like you don't know what else to do. Be really sure that this is what you want. And then, yeah, consider all the things you have to do outside of classes, outside of doing your homework and taking tests to be able to like get the career that you want in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. And that ties into something that I do want to ask though, because I think you've kind of alluded to it. Like you mentioned about how there's that transition going in from someone who hasn't been in school for a while to now having to get back in the mindset of school. As it's not like work where everything I leave at work, maybe you have to take home work every now and then, but mostly you leave it off to the side. But with school, it's something you actively work on, even when you're outside the classroom. And I guess one of the things I do wonder is what are some big challenges that you faced as a grad student? I know you mentioned about that transition, getting back into the swing of things as a student, getting to the student mindset. But I was wondering if there are any other challenges that you had to face as a grad student.
I mean, generally as a grad student, I'll have to think on that. But like as far as like switching like kind of fields of study from like economics to statistics. And again, because I didn't have that heavy math background, although I loved math, I didn't really do it for fun in the the years since I graduated school. So yeah, kind of being able to get my mind to work like that again, like and then even having to learn new math concepts like stuff from like Calc 3, like double integrals and stuff like double summations and like even like linear algebra, like for like when you're doing like linear regression. So it's definitely been like getting my mind to work like that again and also like work like mathematically again and then also like learning new concepts, even more advanced concepts than I'd known before. Um, Other challenges, hmm, that's a tough one because it's so easy for me. I'm, jo- I'm joking. I don't know. I guess I'll piggyback off you. Any other challenges you can think of?
I think the challenges I faced in grad school were more personal than anything because yes, the work is challenging, but it was something that I kind of expected because I was fresh out of school, when I first started coming in because it was only about a year since I graduated with my bachelor's degree. So I was more or less, I guess, fresh and familiar with what's expected out of me in in a university setting in general or college. As but I guess one of the biggest challenges was just trying to understand the importance of networking and just learning to be humble because a lot of times, especially from my experience in undergrad, one of the biggest struggles I've had was this idea that I have to be the smartest person in the room in order to learn or do anything. And that was something that I struggled with a lot as an undergrad. Part of it was because there are students that sometimes I'm pretty sure you're familiar with these types of students. There's some students where they feel the need to, I guess, feel like they need to prove that they're better than others in terms of their attitude, maybe the way they talk, maybe the way they talk to other people. And that was something that got me to kind of be on alert and thinking, what if I'm not smart? What if I'm dumb? And I mean, I still graduated, but I ended up leaving with the sense of, what if I'm not as smart as I think I am? What if I'm not doing as good as I think I am? And then going to grad school, it was a bit of I guess you could say, a shock to me because one thing that I like about grad school is that almost everyone there has some work experience or they've done their bachelor's degree. So they're a lot more experienced and mature on some way because they had that outside world experience. They've already done all that figuring out stuff as a student because I think of undergrad as that place where you figure out your work ethic and what kind of student you want to be. And when you're in grad school, you're like, okay, I already figured that out. Now I just got to keep implementing it. So and it was a rough transition for me, just being, trying to sort of, you know, just trying to deal with those changes and kind of unlearning some of the things that I've learned just being around um undergrads where you're kind of just figuring everything out. And then now being around people who probably are a lot more experienced, they know what they want, and just trying to adjust to that and
Yeah.
recognize that, hey, here we're all learning, no one's smarter than the other person. There's no competition on who's the better person. We're all here to help each other out. We're all here to learn from each other and here to build connections that last for the rest of grad school and ideally beyond that. And so it was, part of me was just trying to get comfortable with that and just learning to be more open, though, knowing that I'm around a bunch of people who are on the same boat as I am. And while we're all different, we're all united by our love of learning and wanting to be successful in our careers. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Uh, Anything else you want to add? Or that's kind of what came to mind when I thought about that question.
Yeah. Uh, Not at the moment. I have to think on it a bit more. But yeah, I mean,
Okay. I guess that said, I think one question I wonder is about, I think one thing that people will want to learn more about, as we already talked about our backgrounds a little bit, and then some of the challenges. I guess one thing that comes to mind are, what are some of the extracurricular activities that you participated in? How do you think your involvement in these activities help with your post-college career path? Like, perhaps we can talk more about that.
yeah. So I'm not sure if your watchers, listeners already know you're like a former officer of our ASA student chapter here at Cal State East Bay, which you, I, and five of our other friends co-founded back in fall 2021. So, like, before I even started the program, like, I think August 2021, I got involved with ASA, the American Statistical Association, and I attended their like the big statistics conference of the year, joint statistical meetings, JSM 2021, which was virtual. And so that was my first taste of like seeing like the statistics profession and professionals and like what it'll be like to work out in like the real world. And yeah, and like seeing that and seeing the opportunities that you can have from going to conferences and like talking to people who are already in their careers. Yeah, that was something I want to continue doing, and then also kind of be able to like get my classmates into that. I don't know if Ken's ever said, but like one of the things he jokes about me saying is like always be networking. But yeah, it's like I know I'm kind of like the mommy of the group sometimes. So, like, all right, guys, you gotta make sure you're talking to people and stuff. 'Cause, yeah, like so for me, from like a connection I made at JSM, like in August before the program even started, I found out about like an internship opportunity that I applied for, interviewed for, and ended up getting. And this is all before I even like finish my semester, already having like finished my first semester, having like an internship lined up for the summer. So it's just like knowing like the possibilities from networking. It's like I want everyone to do this. Like I don't know, I'm one of those people like I like seeing other people succeed. But yeah. So yeah, so I got involved with the larger ASA, and then like we end up founding like our ASA student chapter. And also within ASA itself, they have outreach groups, and I was co-chair of a committee of students and young professionals for the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion outreach group of the ASA. And yeah, so both those positions, being like a co-founder of our ASA student chapter and being a co-chair within like an ASA outreach group, I definitely feel like they helped like advance like my leadership skills and communication skills, organization, and teamwork all things which I think will definitely benefit me like in my future career.
Oh, definitely. And I guess I want to give a little shout out to Lydia because it's through you that I actually knew about all these different things, though. Like if I were to vote for someone to be the MVP, I would point to you because I, I don't think I've told you all this out there, those who are listening and watching, but I first met Lydia, I think it was the fall 2021 semester. We were taking probability statistics theory, something like that, that class, 620, stat 620. And I remember on that first day, I think the professor said, hey, if it helps, you guys can form study groups. And I think it was you and some other classmates who at least sent out an email blasting to all the MS Stat students saying, hey, you want to join a study group? We got one right here. And I remember replying to it saying, hey, I'm available, this and this and this. Let's meet up. And I remember, I think you replied, and I was thinking, is this person in my class? And so I remember coming to class the next day, and I remember I think I saw you, and I was like, is that the person who replied to me? Because I saw you had a profile picture, I think, when you sent that reply. And I went up to you and said, hey, are you Lydia? And you're like, yes. You're like, yes. And I think from there that we ended up just having these, we started out as a study group that then grew into a bunch of friendships where we hung out outside of class. We went out to eat, went to Christmas in the Park in San Jose, all these wonderful events. And then eventually it all culminated in us starting the first chapter of ASA, where I got to do a lot of the marketing materials for ASA. We also got to do some outreach, got some cool speaker events where we brought some statisticians, data science from in the field to come speak with the students. And then we also have the conference too, where I think the where I think it was in February of 2023, which was a month ago, where we got to meet all kinds of statisticians. We got to meet with all these different companies who are hiring statisticians, all that, which was really great. You know, I learned a lot, got to network a lot of people, and overall, like I felt like I've learned a lot out of it that I could apply to my life and my career. And I think a lot of this would not have been possible had you not got us together and formed this club. So if, if anything, kudos to you. Like, thanks for bringing us all. Like, pretty great. And I had a lot of fun, and it was a lot, and it was challenging, but it meant a lot to me, and I really valued our experience.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, it's thanks to all of you because I could have been like, hey, let's start this club. But you could be like, no. But yeah, it was like a group effort for sure. And like half the time I was like, Ken MVP. Like even like our backgrounds that you see in the video, Ken made that. Like he's our rock star posting everything on our social medias. Like Ken's a rock star. Like don't let him like downplay it. But yeah, like it's been really awesome. Like with all the work we've done in the past year culminating in us going to the conference on statistical practice like in February, like it was amazing and I'm so happy that I got to share that and then just all of these experiences with all of you guys this past year. Like it's been awesome because yeah, it all started with like the study group. Because yeah, like Ken and then other of our classmates also live in the South Bay where like we're commuting. For me, it's only like a 35-minute commute, but I think Ken, it's almost like 45 minutes for you. So we're like, yeah, we need to study here in the South Bay, not going to the East Bay. But yeah, like our friend group blossomed and it's yeah, it was amazing. And I don't know, I just feel so lucky to have started the program when I did with the group of us that we have. Cause like, I don't know, we're like all of us are like the dream team, like all of our little group. It's like, and we created something here at East Bay that's gonna like, it's gonna like outlive us. Like when we leave, this is like we have a legacy like at our school, and just like I feel like we've set a good example for like future students, like being leaders and like how to like networking and stuff like that. Like I'm really proud of the work that we've all done. but yeah, like extracurriculars, like it's so important. Like it's so important. And it's funny because like I actually didn't know extracurriculars in undergrad. Like I was pretty active like in high school, like doing extracurriculars, but like I was never in like a leadership position. So like all of this was like completely new to me. like taking on like I started off as VP of our student chapter, but now the president. But yeah, it's all been like a learning experience. And I think even just that being willing to like take on tasks that kind of scare you, but doing them anyway. Like, I think that in itself is like a good skill that will translate well into our careers. Like, just, yeah, taking initiative. Like, that's something we all did. We really took the initiative and built something great.
Yeah, and a lot of this is also possible because we've had uh, wonderful professors who knew what we were doing, saw what we were doing, and openly supported it. Because I know that, especially the Department of Stats at East Bay, they're pretty small compared to a bunch of other college departments, but it feels unique in that it feels like a small knit community, though. Because I think the moment we started pitching this idea of our very first student chapter of ASA at East Bay, I think a lot of them were more than happy to be on board with it and support actively re- help to do some outreach for us through the students that they've taught and tell them, hey, I know you're doing classwork, but if you're interested in more networking, check out this club. So I think I owe a lot to them too for being very supportive of us and allowing us to do a lot of these things. And I guess to your point about legacy, I think one of the another lesson that I've also thought was pretty important, especially in grad school, that I've learned a challenge too, is just thinking, what do you what are you going to take away from grad school? Because we all know what's expected of us, but there's a question of, okay, what kind of impact do you want to make your time here be? And it really brings to the importance of like how much everything you do matters. So way, like the people you network, the classes you take, all the time you spend with professors and talking to students, like it all plays a role in some way. And there's some people who make use of their time one way, and there's some who make use of it another way. And I think that's something that you're not really taught in school, like how to make use of your time. But it's things like that that show how important it is because at the end of the day, when you're going to grad school, you're not just learning something new, you're investing in yourself, the community around you, and I guess your career and I guess what kind of world that you want. And so far, I think that even though only been 2 years in the program, I feel like we've accomplished a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, we have. And I will say, going back to what you asked about challenges, it's not a challenge I face, but I will say a lot of people who are like in a master's program, especially if they're like returning to school from like from work, or if they're like still working and then trying to advance their career options, like having to work while in school. I've been lucky where that wasn't something I've done, being both like a either full-time or part-time employee and then also working. But yeah, I will say I know because I've done a lot of like extracurriculars during the program, and it's only because I didn't have that added stress and workload of like having another job as well. So I do want to say also like for those people who maybe even if you're just shy and kind of like don't want to do network work where it's like in person stuff, it's not this won't necessarily be the only way to like advance your like get the most out of. I mean, it's a great way to get the most out of like the program and your master's degree. But yeah, I don't want to say it's the only way, but yeah, for sure that is an added like obstacle people have that I didn't have, luckily.
Yeah, and I will say, having worked, especially for the first semester before I left, that it was definitely a challenge for sure for me because of the fact that I think one of the things I do like about this program is that it's very flexible for those that are working because some of our classmates that we met, they've worked. I mean, they work full time and then they got to spend their nights focusing on their classes. And I will say, I think for the first semester, I was able to get by pretty well, mostly because one thing I kind of learned from undergrad was just I guess learning to invest in myself even means making little sacrifices where I would sometimes go with, I guess, 5 hours of sleep just to get those extra hours in. Because I was that first semester, I was working and yeah. And while I was able to pass my classes, it did take a huge toll on me. And it's, I mean, not to say that you can't be able to pass your classes while you're working. It is possible. It's just that it takes a lot of work and energy. And you have to be willing to give up a lot just to be able to have the two at the same time, work and school. And for me, I ended up leaving it just not working for a while because I was like, I can't, I need better work-life balance. And I decided that focusing solely on school for the time being is the best way to go. And for me, my mental health and all of that. And so I ended up leaving. And then it wasn't until I think it was fall of last year, fall 22, that I actually started working again. Um, and that one, I not only was working, but I also was doing the ASA club. I was also, being active and keeping 100% with my studies. I also was attending workshops, events, and making time for hangouts. I remember that semester being probably the most punishing for me, like last semester, not only because of the material. I mean, I was taking stat 640, which is what you were taking, and then there's 650 and 651, which are the data science concentration, which are both all of them were pretty challenging for sure because of the amount of rigor that you needed, especially since 640 was like a year away from 620. So there's like
Yeah.
it's like a big of a jump since the semester before that you're doing classes that are somewhat related but not really, and then you have to jump back to old stuff, all
Mm.
that. And while I passed it, I will say that it's probably something that I'm probably not going to do again. I'm pretty sure other people have figured out a way to do full time and then go to school full time, but it's definitely something that takes a lot of work and also very strong time management. I think that's a big deal because I remember last semester, there are times where I would say no to hangouts or something like that because there are some events I planned like 3 weeks in advance, and I would strictly stick to that schedule, knowing that every second, every hour second that I could be using for school or something like that. Uh, yeah, it's tough, but it's possible though.
Yeah. Like I know for me with like trying to work and like do the networking that I wanted to be able to do and like do the program because already all of all of the classes are challenging for me not having that heavy math background. But yeah, I think that was a good call because yeah, like it's so important to take care of your mental health and just like avoiding burnout. I definitely feel like so like for me when I was doing the MS accounting degree, um, so like their program, accelerated 1 year program, and I had to take kind of like five five summer courses, like five back-to-back summer courses, to try and to like get up to speed. That yeah, they're basically kind of prereqs for the program itself for people who didn't have like an accounting back like a bachelor's in accounting. And it was just a grueling it was a lot. And I found that by the end I got like burnt out. Like I got through four of the five classes before I'm like, I can't. And just knowing yeah, knowing myself and knowing that from my previous experience of like not being able to get through that program, I wanted to give myself the best chance I could to like get through this program because yeah, I really want this degree. But yeah, I did find that even still without working, I also had like last semester was rough because I took 10 credits. Normally the workload is 8 credits per semester, but I also added on like the research class, which is an extra 2 credits. And then yeah, I had the 2 leadership roles I was juggling, being president of our student chapter and then also co-chair of like the Student Young Professionals Committee of JEDI. So yeah, it was a grueling semester. So definitely having strong time management skills and being able to create that work-life balance so that you can avoid burnout for sure. It's good.
And I always wonder though, just going off of that, like, how did you manage all of that? Because there are times where, like, I look at your schedule and frankly, I'm quite jealous how you just managed all of that. Because I think for last semester, like, for me, I had work and all of that, but you're doing like a bunch of other different things though. And that just feels like a full-time job in itself. Like, so, like, how do you manage all of that and then still able to graduate? Because we both passed those classes anyway.
Yeah.
But I just can't imagine being able to take this many classes and all that. And then top of that, networking, and then you have Jedi and ASA, just all of that happening at once, though.
Yeah, I will say, I guess one of the things, or one of the good, like really good things I've learned from like my previous positions, like my jobs, especially working as an office technician, used to be like really organized and especially like with your emails and like calendar. So basically, like my life would fall apart if it were not for my calendar and like my reminders. Because, like, yeah, like basically, like I'd have like every, like all of my hours blocked out for like weeks in advance and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really all about time management. And it was really all about time management. Because I mean, there are like, I don't know, people both use it as like, it's cliche, like there's 24 hours of the day, make the most of it. But yeah, like if you do figure out, I don't know, what what's the most important thing you need to do for today, make a to-do list of the things you want to get done, get the things that are like the high priority things out of the way, and then if you have to shift some stuff. But yeah, it was really my calendar and my to-do lists and like reminders that were my saving grace. And then also like our friend group and just being able to lean on you guys like with help for studying and like because yeah, I don't know if you guys know that this is Professor Ken, like our unofficial tutor, like throughout the stats program. Because like I wouldn't have made it through this program without you and like our friends and stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that underscores, yeah, it really highlights the importance of having a study group, though, for sure. Because while there's some people who could succeed on their own, studying on their own, I do think there's just value in having a study group, though. So for those of you listening and wondering about this program, I think a study group is definitely a very important thing because with a study group, it's an opportunity to learn from other people or hear someone explain something in a different way. And if you're stuck at homework, we can help each other. We may not know everything, but we can try to help each other. I mean, there's a sense of camaraderie that comes with having the same set of struggles and challenges, all of that. And there's also the fact that it's one thing to know how to do the problems and understand the lecture. It's another thing when you have to teach it to somebody else. And that's something I've learned having done some tutoring or teaching in the past, where you don't truly know something until you actually teach it to another person. And that's a real test of whether you've actually learned it or not. And if not, that's okay. Just go back and all of that. And I think something like a study group just allows for that, though, for sure. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not enough that you just know how to do it. You also know why. Because next thing you know, like when you're working as a statistician, you're kind of considered some kind of expert in your area. So you're probably going to get similar questions like that in the future. So, and I think something like a study group can help you learn how to work as a group and also prepare you for that kind of situation where people are turning to you for advice and knowing how to navigate that. So just want to put that out there. Yeah, study
Yeah,
groups are
and
very valuable.
oh, definitely. And for sure, because the thing is, like, some of us may have like gone through like undergrad just kind of like, all right, I just got to get my work done, that's it. Like maybe you'll have a few like group projects interspersed, but for the most part I feel like for me undergrad was a lot of like work on your own kind of thing. But when you're going out into like the real world and like to your career and everything, no one's working in isolation. You have to be communicating with people on your team, people in other teams and everything. And like it's a lot of like working with others. So any experience you get working with others and having other people depending on you and you depending on them, like it's a really important experience to have for sure.
Right. And even if you're working in isolation, especially when used to work as like a help desk person, you still have to report to somebody. Yes. Or you might have other people working in isolation, but they're on the same team and all of that. Or you're talking to a customer, well, you have to have people skills. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something that's not very emphasized a lot, but it is a big deal. Because I think a lot of times when people look at a stats degree, they're thinking, oh, just run the formula, put in the numbers, make the charts, and give it. But especially, but what I've learned is that even especially through the conference you went to in February, the conference on statistical practice, it's not enough to just have data. You also have to communicate it because you're not just working with other stats people. You're also working with the CEO of a company who probably doesn't know statistics and probably doesn't need to know all those little details like, oh, how did you come up with this formula? They probably want to know how does it affect the mission of the company? How does it affect the company? How does it affect the business? Or you work for, let's say, a nonprofit. Let's say they're giving food to families. Well, what is it? How can I use this information to help me do my job better? All of that. Like, and that requires people skills, just knowing how to read the room and adapt to the kind of people that you're going to work with.
Yeah, for sure. So that was definitely like a big benefit of us having this club because it took us beyond like the skills we're learning in the classroom and learning those communication skills and learning from people who are in the field and like hearing about their actual experience. Yeah, so it's been really good.
Okay. Looks like we have some time on the clock, and I want to kind of take it back to the program because I know we talked a lot about background, but I guess I want to, continue on by talking a little bit more about the program itself. So I guess I could start off by asking, let's see here. Um, what are some things that you really liked about the program? I know we kind of probably talked about it before, but I thought maybe there's other things that in mind that you really liked about the program that you really enjoyed while you're in the program.
Yeah. So one thing for me, I'll say I like the flexibility of the program. So like yeah, we're in the Department of Statistics and Biostatistics. So there's the MS Statistics and MS Biostatistics. And then even within the statistics, there's like um several different concentrations. You have data science, which is the concentration that most people are doing. Then you also have actuarial science, applied statistics, and I think mathematical statistics.
Yeah, that's correct.
Uh, yeah, but then also you can just be general statistics, which is me, because I'm somewhat of a free spirit. It's like I like having options and choosing like what I want to do. So I really like that about the program, like the option to like I don't know, really choose like what I want to do, like choosing what things I want to learn. Because I mean, we all do have the same core courses, even for statistics and bio, where it's like we had probability, statistical methods, linear regression, analysis of variance, and then advanced statistical theory. But it's like beyond that, I got to like kind of choose what I wanted to do. So yeah, I took like two of the data science concentration courses where it's the advanced star and data visualization. And then also like I took was it like my internship counted towards my credits as well as the research class I took. And yeah, so I think even like the research class, that was one of the things I really liked being able to do because it's kind of pretty open-ended. It wasn't like we're given a specific assignment, here, use this data set, do this project. It was kind of like find a data set or even find just something you want to learn about, something in statistics. So that was really cool for me. But yeah, in general, I I like the program because I know looking at, I want to say San Jose State's program, like I had looked at it and it was a bit more structured, which if you're someone who likes structure, that's not a bad thing. But I know for me, like I like having more options to choose like what I want to do.
Absolutely. I think with the San Jose State program, they have like a data science, machine learning specific specialization. There's only one. And I think for the general one, you can choose not to take certain classes, which for us, we have to take. Like, I think one key difference, especially right now, it might change in the future, is that you're not required to learn ANOVA, I think, for the San Jose State program, which kind of makes sense because it seems to me that that program is more geared towards, say, getting a PhD or working in the industry, although it seems to lean more towards the research side for sure because of how rigorous it is. Whereas us, I think it's very clear that it's meant for, so this program, I think it's meant for people who are working in the industry and they want to up their game with more statistics skills or working in the industry. Because for me, I think in case I didn't tell anyone out there, I'm a data science concentration, which means all the electives I have are very programming heavy. We're all about giving me experience with skills that are probably going to be used in my area, data science. So there's a lot of how do you make graphs? How do you make your code cleaner so that way it runs faster? How can you make apps and dashboards so that way you can present your data in all these cool different ways, which is all very practical and very, I guess, industry related. And whereas for, I think yours is kind of free flowing where you can pick and choose like which ones you want to take, which ones that. I guess one thing I do kind of wonder is about like how do you how do you feel about the electives that you chose? Like how much did you like what do you feel are some of the things that you really gained a lot out of taking those courses? Like what skills or knowledge that you found to be pretty useful?
Yeah. So I would say, I guess another thing I didn't mention about extracurriculars. So at the same time I joined ASA, like the larger ASA organization, I joined this community, like the Slack workspace called the R4DS Online Learning Community. R4DS standing for R for Data Science, which is a book by Hadley Wickham, like the R guru, like in the R stats community. But yeah, so in this community, the Slack workspace, like they have like a for one, it's run by this amazing guy, John Harmon, who runs the entire Slack workspace. Well, he's the administrator for it. Him and he has a team of like volunteers as well. Um, and they're running like multiple book clubs. I don't even know how many are going on like at the moment, but I want to say there's at least 10 book clubs going on at any one time. And yeah, so that was one thing I was doing outside of school. So yeah, like I started off in my first semester, I was learning about ggplot2, which is a data visualization program for the R programming language, or rather a data visualization library for the R programming language. And yeah, I fell in love with it. But like data visualization, it speaks to like my design side as well as my like business side. Like, how do I convey this information? Um, but yeah, so the open-endedness of the applied research class that I did, it let me explore those things that I liked more, exploring more R programming and like data visualization and like going like my project, I delved deeper into a project that Ken and one of our myself and one of our classmates worked on the semester before, and just like being able to go even deeper into the like the theory of everything and the applications of it. So yeah, that was good. And then also like I'd found out about this other new, I wouldn't even call it a package. So Quarto, it's this way of creating documents in R, and actually you can use it in like with other programming languages. You can use it with like Python and Julia, VS Code, and sure other things I don't know. But yeah, so that was also something I got to explore more of through taking the research class, because like even I did my project and I built a website using Quarto. So yeah, I just it like taking kind of a more open-ended class like that just allowed me to like explore my own interests a bit more versus having like a set syllabus of what I would have learned. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if anything, it allows you to specialize more into things that you really want to get into. And as it's, I think one of the differences between the undergrad and masters is that undergrad, you get a general foundation of everything. And then masters, that's when you not only get more in depth with it, but you're allowed to specialize in certain things that you want to explore. And so it seems like from your background, your interests, you're more into kind of the application, like research part for sure. So yeah, that's kind of what I read. What about for like the program in general? Like what skills or knowledge have you taken from it that you found to be pretty valuable at all? You can even extend it to other experiences in the program itself, just the learning and whatnot, if you like to.
Yeah. So in the program, I don't know. I feel like one of the things I really like is we've had really great professors who have like it's gone beyond like, all right, this is what we'll learn in the syllabus. They kind of um like sparked our intrigue on other topics and things, and like just kind of supported us learning new things, or rather supported me. So like one of the things I learned to use that wasn't like part of the program was like GitHub, and it was like partially learning it for the R4DS online learning community, and also just like using it for school. But yeah, it's I like the support, like how supportive the professors are, and of like helping you go beyond what's learned in the classroom, to help you learn things that you're just interested in. Because I know Ken, myself, and one of our schoolmates, like we had one of the professors took some like extra time, like even beyond like regular office hours, like, hey, can you show us how GitHub works? Like, can you just show us how this works? Yeah, so things like that, or even one of our professors, like one of the semesters where they didn't have the research class, but just on his own time, he has like this data science work group where he goes through like these concepts that like I probably wouldn't have learned about, or wouldn't would have learned about like only later on in other classes, and just taking that time to do that just because like he likes the stuff and like wants us to like learn about it, because like he knows it'll help us in our careers, and just kind of like sparking that intrigue in the students. So yeah, I definitely like that.
Right. And it's a professor like that can elevate, the experience too. As it's one thing to lecture, but it's also another thing when they really make you want to come to class like every day, though. And you can kind of feel the passion kind of come through when they teach, though. Because I guess speaking of favorite classes, some of my favorite classes that I do like to take or actually, I'll start off by talking about the classes that I end up feeling challenged first, because when I think of challenge, I don't think of it as a negative connotation. I think of it as more of a positive thing, in that it gave me something to push myself against, and to sort of like the catalyst to driving me to grow and transform. And one of those classes was 632, which is where you learn linear logistic regression. I think it was the class that challenged me the most because, I mean, SAT 640 and 620, they were challenging in their own right. But I think Stat 632 was when I really felt challenged, though, as a student, though. And part of it was because we had a wonderful professor who told us what we needed to know, but also he would do things that would test how much you really know something. because it's very easy to just follow the instructions. But it's another thing is, do you understand what those instructions mean? Or do you understand how to think for yourself? And I felt like that was a class that actually pushed me to do that. As there are some questions on the exam, for example, where he would ask one thing and you think it means one thing, but really he's testing you on something else. Like, don't just follow my instructions. Does what I'm saying make sense? It's not a trick question. It's more like, can you think on your feet and do that? And I felt, and that's kind of the reason why I almost struggle a lot because I think I got a C plus on my first exam, and then I went up to like an A, luckily on the second exam, and then ended up passing the class anyway with because of how we did on the final project. But man, that was something that challenged me the most, and I ended up having a great deal of respect for that professor because the fact that he knew what learning was all about. And I felt like that was something that was very refreshing. And plus, we also did a group project too. And I felt like that's where a lot of our creativity kind of got to shine because I'm the kind of person that doesn't quite like exams. I like doing projects. I like being creative and designing stuff. Going back to your example, you talked about, or when you talked about your background, or interest in fashion designing, I think of statistics as a creative field, even though it's very technical, because you're dressing up the data for special occasions, getting the measurements right, presenting it to the people, and then doing all these nice colors and graphics, and then hopefully using it to create certain effects or feelings that you want to convey to the audience. And I felt like that was one class that I liked for sure that
Yeah.
allowed me to do that. It's one that where I'm like, it was challenging, but I respect you. It made me
Yeah.
respect you. And then those classes like, I would say 650, 651 for sure. It's probably another favorite of mine because it's data visualization. I love graphics and stuff. I think that's kind of why I ended up doing the whole social media stuff for our club. But I also just love being creative because I love that our professor, he would teach us these certain things and he would say, oh, go check out this website, go look it up and stuff like that. Not in a dismissive way. It was more as in, hey, I'll show you the basics, but feel free to do whatever you like, you know, because, don't wait for me to do something, have fun with it. And I think that's where it really got to show when you design all these graphs. So yeah.
Yeah. And with, yeah, two things came to mind. I'll start with like data viz first. So yeah, so like because I did like the ggplot2 book club, I went into data viz thinking, all right, this will be easy. I'll know how to do everything. No. Honestly, for last semester, I think that ended up like, yeah, the statistical theory and probability class was hard, but I think what made data viz like extremely hard for me was I went in there not quite thinking I knew everything, but kind of like, all right, this is gonna be a breeze. But I like how you said like being challenged isn't a bad thing because I like that I was challenged. I like that my eyes were opened to so many more like facets of data viz than I even thought of. Like we learned like geocoding, how to like putting data, like mapping data to like an actual like map and stuff like that. Learn how to make dashboards like with shiny apps and just so many more facets of like data viz that I wouldn't even have thought of, and just being introduced to these concepts. And it's, yeah, this is exactly it, where it's like just like, I mean, we went over a lot of stuff, but it gave me more things that like I want to look up how to do now. Like I have like bookmarks in my LinkedIn learning, like making maps in R and plot data viz with plotly and stuff. I'll get to it eventually, but like there's so much like, that's one of the things I really love, professors that challenge you and then just make you want to learn new things. Like that's really great. And yeah, and for sure, like great grad school for sure. It tests your critical thinking for sure. Because yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with like that test where it's like it's it's never, you're not gonna get straightforward. All right, what's the answer? A, B, C, D, E. It's never that. And that's the thing. Like when you go into work, the workforce, your job is never going to be that simple. Choose A, B, C, D, E. Like you really will have to think on your own, and that's what programs like these grad level classes teach you. They teach you how to learn. It's no longer regurgitating information that someone gave you. It's all right, can you think through this problem yourself? And sometimes it's not like there may not be just one answer. It's just about being able to think of how like testing your own problem solving skills and finding a answer that works, because yeah, there might not be just one answer, and even if there is already a answer, it might not be the best one, you know. Things can always be like better and advanced and stuff, so yeah.
And I think that's where leadership comes into play too, because I'm currently doing an internship right now. And there are times where we would have, I wouldn't call it arguing, but more like this debates, discussions between me and my coworkers and my team, where we're thinking, how do I solve this problem? Because for some context, at this internship, I'm like the lone statistics guy. So my job is more of a mediator because you have two people with different backgrounds, with different visions on how to reach the same goal. And sometimes as a statistician, I feel I'm always like the middle person being like, oh, what about this? Or, oh, your argument is based on this assumption. Or your model is based on this assumption. And because that's how it is, though, there isn't really a perfect answer to everything. And even when you decide on an answer, there's still some, to borrow something from economics, there's a cost to everything you're doing. Like
Mm.
this may be a very efficient way to do it, but there's always a cost. And I think that's something that you learn when you get higher up education, like in grad school. You realize there's good answers, but there's not perfect answers.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes, people might have a hard time dealing with that because they're expecting, I want it's not A, B, C, D. I want to bubble in the right answer when it's really not. And this kind of shows too in the program too, where there are exams, yes, but there's also a lot more project heavy finals. Because I think for our linear regression class, we didn't have a final, we had a project. Or
Yeah.
I think for one of the data science classes, we had a project, not really a final. Yeah. And it's all to emphasize the importance of think on your own, have fun with it, do what you feel is best and be able to back up your decisions with all the evidence you have. Like if you make this choice to make this thing a certain color, can you explain to me why did you make it that color? Like stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you're not just investing in education, you're investing in your career.
Mhm. Yeah, what you're saying about choosing the right colors, that reminds me. Yeah, like yeah, for with data viz, it's like, all right, there's certain principles you go by. There's certain rules you can't break, but then other than that, kind of you need to know what the rules are before you can break them or bend them and stuff like that. And yeah, like our degree, it's like teaching us the principles of things and then like being able to think outside it later. So like I don't the full saying, I couldn't think of it, but there's okay, so I think it's like there's no such thing as a perfect probability model, but there are useful models. I forgot exactly what you said that made that come to mind. And it's just about like, yeah, even thinking about what you're saying about with your coworkers, thinking about what your assumptions are. And yeah, it's just one of the things we got drilled into us for linear regression. Thinking about what your assumptions are for your model to even see if it works. And I think that's just a good thing for life, and just considering what assumptions you're making. um yeah, considering what assumptions you're making before going through with whatever model in life you're doing, not even like just statistics, but yeah.
Right. And some of these assumptions we don't know is because it's so unconscious. We're so used to it that we don't think about it though, for sure. Because, that brings up something that you said something about life too. And I think it really got me thinking because I remember I was spending one night sitting down and I was thinking about writing about something I've learned about statistics. And I realized it's a kind of a life lesson in itself. Because one of the things that we've learned, especially, let's say, for example, hypothesis testing, one of the things that you learn is the fact that when you reject something, you're not saying that the hypothesis is wrong. you're just saying that there's not enough evidence. Notice like not enough. It's not saying it's completely wrong, it's that there's not enough to prove this thing. And I remember, I think one of our stats professors said, when you reject a hypothesis or you fail to reject, that doesn't automatically mean the other hypothesis is right. It just means there's not enough to prove this. Or like you can prove something is wrong, but you can't prove that something is completely right.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how it is too, because, you know, just because you prove someone wrong or something wrong doesn't mean that the other thing is right. Or just because you have a high percentage, high probability, say 99.99%, that doesn't mean the outcome you want is going to happen right away. Like, let's say I have a 99% chance of winning the lottery. Sure, it's a high chance, but that's not a guarantee that I'm going to win it. Because 99, you still got to consider that 0.001. That can happen. And I see that a lot of times when, especially in business, where people are like, you said I had an 83% chance of increasing my revenue. I said, and then I would say, well, I said 83%. I didn't say, yes, you will get that victory. You still got to consider that other 23%. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this happens to you now, but I find in life when someone asks me for like a yes or no answer for certain things in the future, I'm like, I want to say yes, but like I can't predict the future kind of thing. There's always that chance. Like, I don't know if this is ever, I'm trying to think of a specific instance, but yeah, I feel like I'm definitely more of that, aware of that uncertainty in everything. It's like, there's no like, full yes, I will do this when like yeah, but I don't know. Something I think about. I feel like I think this program definitely has me thinking about like there's oh you're muted.
Oh no, no, go ahead, go ahead. I
Oh
was just
okay.
I was just reacting.
Oh okay, okay. But yeah, just learning there's not like a lot of certainty in life and just kind of being more cognizant of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess one more example is like modeling. There may be a strong relationship, but there isn't a guaranteed relationship because there could be other factors that you don't know about. And as with modeling, you have to make assumptions in order to make it easy to understand. Because the real world, there's hundreds of thousands of different things affecting whatever you're looking at. And we make it simple just so we can understand it, not because that's how it is. Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
I guess, oh, okay, we're running close. I guess one last question, I think, to really end all this. I know there's a lot, and for all you folks listening, you have any questions, and so on that you want answered, you feel free to leave them down in the comments, and I'll try to my best to answer it or not. But one thing I want to close this off with, this, and man, it's an hour. Wow. But I think one thing to close it off with is just what's some pieces of advice that you would give anyone who's considering this program or they're currently going through the program itself?
Yeah. I would say definitely I think we definitely stressed it a lot, but form a study group, get like humans were made to be in groups. Like we all need a support system. Like having your study group or just even building those relationships with your professors, going to office hours. Like it's really good to like make those connections and just having like a support system within school. I would say like that's one of the biggest takeaways because yeah, my experience like basically anything I've accomplished throughout this program is because of you, Ken, and our friends. None of this could have happened without you guys. I couldn't imagine getting through like our probability class without you guys. Like yeah, having shoulders to cry on when I get my quizzes and tests back from like even like 640 statistical theory. It's like, yeah, having knowing that you're going through this shared struggle, this shared well, it doesn't have to be a struggle, but this shared experience, like, yeah.
Absolutely. And like, I think you've just said it though, like study groups really do help though. as I was talking to my sister the other day, and she and I were thinking about what would the universe be like if I hadn't connected with y'all. And I thought about it for a moment, and I realized if I hadn't connected with y'all, I felt like grad school would just be undergrad 2.0, where it was just more of the same thing, more of the same habits. And sure, I'll still graduate, but I'm not going to get a lot out of it because I look at all the things that we've accomplished together because we didn't just become a study group. We also became ASA student chapter. We started hanging out more. We also networked, did the conference, all of that. And I looked back and I wondered, what would happen if I didn't do any of those things? And I realized that yes, I would get the grades and I would pass, but I wouldn't have that extra real world experience or all those extra skills that would have actually helped me even more to get to where I want to be. As you know, as I would just have the skills, the knowledge that I had, but I wouldn't have the extra leadership skills that will allow me to kind of be more confident in myself and all of that. Because when I look at school, I feel like it's also a mental game too, not just academic for sure. Yeah. And I guess that leads to, I guess, another advice I would probably give is also the importance of, I think, having a vision and knowing what you want. Because I think one of the reasons that I was able to get through grad school, I feel like I'm doing well so far is because I have an idea of where I wanted to go. And it helps though because it helps informs what kind of classes you could take, also the kind of people you want to network with, the companies you want to work for, and also where do you want to end up after grad school though, too. Like, don't just think about grad school too, but also think after too. Like, think of the things that you want, and it's why interviewers a lot of times, especially job interviews, they ask, what do you like to, what do you look for in a company? Because not because they want to hear what you have to say, but they want to see if your vision aligns with their vision. Because having a good vision gives you something to focus on that can inform everything else about you. And it's why sometimes when I coach students, I tell people before you do anything, have a vision, look at yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, and confront them and then work through them before you can do anything else. Yeah. Because things are a lot easier when you know what you want and you're aware of what you want to work on and what you're good at. As once you know all these things, it makes it a lot easier just working towards goal because you know what you can take advantage of, um, what to work on, and also helps you be a better person in the long run.
Mhm. Yeah. So definitely, yeah, what you're saying, like long-term thinking. Like our program, it's not about getting through the current class you're in. It's about in the end, what are you going to do with this degree? How is this going to help you? How is this going to push you towards your life goals? So yeah, for sure.
Right. So it looks like we're almost close to time. Is there anything else you want to add, or you feel good?
I feel pretty good. And thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your blog, Ken. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's my first interview, so hopefully I did well.
No, you did great. It was really good. I forgot that we spent an hour talking, though. It didn't
Yeah.
feel like it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for coming on, Lydia. I really appreciate this because I feel like there's a lot of ground that we covered here that is definitely going to help a lot of students out there that are going to consider this program or just want to wonder if, whether being statistics is for them and whatnot, or in particular this school, though. Because I started this vlog just to give some background. I started this vlog because, one thing that is important to me, especially, is representation. Because when I went through undergrad, one of the things that I struggled with quite a bit was representation. Because, I mean, when I went to undergrad, while there were people on Reddit talking about their experiences at San Jose State, it wasn't the same as, say, when I look at YouTube, where you have all these, I wouldn't say influencers, but content creators that talk about their majors and all. Like I would see people that were an art major talking about their life at San Jose State, but I didn't see many people talking about their life as a STEM major very often. And while I don't quite need to have a content creator talking about these things for my major, I feel like there's an extra bonus in having solidarity, knowing someone's
Yeah.
going through what you're going through, and someone to kind of mentor you in a way, guide you. Like, and that was kind of something I was looking for back then, where I was perhaps looking for maybe a guy who already did their bachelor's in math, be like, hey, Ken, I did this. Ask away. I'm here to help you. So a lot of what I did was figuring things out on my own, which wasn't very easy and kind of uncomfortable for me at times because I didn't know what I was doing. I was always thinking, am I doing it wrong? Am I doing it wrong? And I mean, now I'm graduating. I mean, if I didn't, I wouldn't be here. But I mean, while I graduated, I realized, you know, perhaps there's a way to change that in some way, though, because I'm just one person. I mean, there are other people who are probably going the same things we're going through and think differently. But I thought, what if maybe I shouldn't be exactly looking for that person? What if I could be that person? I think I find that, and not to say that we shouldn't have more content creators, but more like sometimes the best way to find find that person, that mentor, is to be one yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you can't find one, maybe you can be one yourself. Maybe create that yourself. And so I
Yeah.
started these vlogs as kind of as a way to maybe share what I know and then give it out to people. And hopefully people at least have a better sense of this program and also feel like they're seen, they're heard, and that they're not alone in this journey, that there's someone out there who has done this. And yes, they may not know everything, but they can at least share what they've learned. And then maybe you can take it with you and then maybe come out. Because I've made a bunch of mistakes. And I hope that talking about these things, someone be like, oh, he made this mistake and he says this. I'll keep that in mind when I go through the program so I don't repeat that or maybe do better and all that.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I ended up in this vlog. So I want to say I'm really glad that you came on and all that because I feel like it adds to what I'm trying to achieve here. And I feel like you've offered a lot of perspective, especially on this program too, because I think I've said this before, but like one of the reasons why, because you have a unique background. Like you didn't come from a traditionally STEM background and you came to it. And I thought it's a really good thing because it really highlights a lot of the diversity we have in the program because we don't just have STEM, we also have econ, English, and all of that. And I feel like it's important to know that even if you're not a STEM major, you can still do well in this program. So,
Yeah.
sure.
For sure.
All
Yeah.
right. So,
Thank
wait, you're saying?
Oh no, I was just gonna be say thank you. And yeah, I like what you're saying, like kind of be the change you want to see in the world. So you didn't see yourself out there, so you became that person for someone else. That's great.
Absolutely. So, all right, folks. I guess this is a good place to stop. So, we covered a lot of ground, but you still have any more questions? Feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'll try to answer them, or even I'll bring them to Lydia, and we'll try our best to kind of answer them. But I want to say thank you all for tuning in, listening. Thank you, Lydia, as well for coming on. It really was informative, and I felt like there's just a lot that we covered that hopefully would, people would take from it and really find it valuable, as well as for me too. I found them very valuable as well, having that different perspective. And all you folks out there, hope you all have a wonderful day and take care. Hope you all stay tuned for the next one.